Hello again, everyone. I'm Martin Falls, and I wanted to take a special segment here on Bayou Time to thank Dr. Patrick Hagen for the many years of service that he gave us in the medical profession. As we roll in some footage, he was always a big part of HTV, and that's why I want to do this segment to thank him for being very versatile, and the spirit of his giving really spread out over a lot of areas. Of course, he loved E.D. White. He loved Vanderbilt, where he went to school. He loved putting his kids in his commercials. His love for family, second to none. And there he is, those kids. That's going to haunt them the rest of their life, but they enjoyed doing it when they were young. They're all grown now, and certainly some of those old commercials are pretty indicative of the fact that Dr. Patrick was and is a kid at heart. He's always had a kid's heart. He's got a brilliant business mind. He had a brilliant mind for what he did, and he recently announced his retirement in the medical profession to sort of venture out and do other things. He has beach houses he's going to rent out. He has professional services that he's going to get into. So he's still going to be a part of HTV, but I wanted to reach out on the medical end because, as you can see by these great commercials over the years and using his children and getting them involved to have fun and really to teach them how to get involved in the community. He and his wife have done a fantastic job. We see shots here of the Saints on the Bayou at the time. Now it's Sports on the Bayou, where he would always ask his question, and the panelists would always look forward to answering the question. Look, we were certainly attired in the latest fashion there, but he would show up from surgery to do the show, and he'd have to stay for about an hour, then he would dart off and go do more surgery. So he was using a lot of his time, and really probably should have been relaxing, but maybe that was relaxing for him. He became a part of Sports on the Bayou, and I know Bobby and Rich and Mike and Harry and Stan and everyone who was involved in the programs always looked forward to the unique way that Dr. Pat would ask his question. And it was well thought out. And it was questions that, look, there's Bobby and him jostling on certain things, but Dr. Pat was certainly challenged him with the questions. And let's bring this full screen because he brought his son on recently when they were talking about the state championship game that E.D. White played in that year. And that's what I'm talking about, family-oriented. And what I did with these shows, I didn't tell people who they would interview. I let them pick their interviews. And a lot of times, Dr. Pat certainly wanted to show love to E.D. White, his alma mater, although he and his siblings attended Vanderbilt. So it's funny around here how you always try to gravitate back to your alma mater. But I guess when your kids and your family go to a certain school, you gravitate towards your kids. But just to thank him for the time he spent there, you see the asking all the questions segment. That became a pretty big deal. That's at the championship game where he and Coach Boyd Hebert were telling me a little scheming going on for the game. So just a segment to thank Dr. Pat for the many, many years that he gave to HTV, and he wants to continue doing it. But as a physician, all that time, he gave to this community. So what I'd like to do now, I'm going to bring up a little audio on an interview I had with Dr. Pat, just so you could get a little feel for Dr. Pat. Let's roll that in.
I want to just tell you, you know, at HTV, you're making a huge difference in life. And you know what? Sometimes we don't think of the contributions we're making until somebody tells us. You know, we kind of think it almost like self-deprecating. You don't think that the works you do make that big a difference, and you look at others and you say, man, those people are doing great things. But, you know, your mother and father are just wonderful people. And your brother Mike, your whole family, the apples didn't fall very far from the tree in the way you run HTV, and the way you treat your fellow man. And you know, the way you have God on this station, you have the flag on this station, you point out the everyday heroes in our area rather than dwelling on the few bad things that occur in life that are shown in that 24-hour news cycle on the 24-hour media. You know, one thing Father Harry Thompson once told me was, turn off the media and go out and change the world, or don't dwell on the media. Mm-hmm. You need to know enough in the news to know what's going on and what to watch out for. But when I look at my everyday life, I see a lot of good people, mm-hmm. a lot of people doing the right things in our community and in our nation that somehow is never publicized. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the real truth of our country.
And that's the reason why I truly believe that the kids doing the great things need the 10 minutes of airtime before the thug who's robbing somebody and just wants his name on TV.
Oh, that's absolutely. Yeah. You know, you got to remember that the definition of the news is the abnormal. The abnormal. Yeah. And it is pretty rare. Yeah. And yet all the good things that people are doing in communities around our country, mm-hmm. they aren't publicized. Mm-hmm. And I would just tell people to trust their eyes. Trust what you see in your fellow man every day and in your community, and you realize that's the truth. And where there are problems, then make a difference.
Dr. Patrick Hagen, job well done.